Everyone, welcome. It is Thursday. It's Amadeus, it's Jim, and we are here to impart wisdom to you, uh, or at least give you something to talk about for the next 25, 30 minutes. Anyway, Amadeus, some interesting things over the last 24 to 48 hours. Um, how about now? We had said, wouldn't it be cool if college football could be like English Premier League, where you have relegations and you don't just get money because you happen to be lucky enough to live in a conference, right? Well, it looks like that might, and I underline the term might very many times, happen. It's called the 70 team Super League. Now, for those of you who are not who have not seen or heard of this, basically what it is the presidents of a number of universities have talked with the NFL to create what in essence would be the closest thing to the NFL, like uh, from a college standpoint. So we'll get into how it works, but your thoughts, Amadeus? This one, I'm going to ask you, what do you think the odds are? Because this would be a handicapping thing.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it happens. Obviously, they've been talking in soccer about doing the Super League
Mm-hmm.
with the best teams from the Premier
Yeah.
League and La Liga and stuff like that. There's a lot of pushback from fans and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's going to be a lot of pushback on this too. But really, the most unrealistic aspect about it all is the fact that you would really have to wait out a lot of these TV contracts with the SEC specifically
Yeah.
to you'd have to wait a few years for those to expire to rework everything with the TV deals. So that's definitely the biggest obstacle I see in the way. But yeah, I expect some pushback from probably some of the fans. Obviously, the mid-major schools who are going to get left out of this 70 team format already. So
Well, the way they've set it up is there's a little over 130 teams that play Division One college football. So what they would do is they would pick the 60 top teams based on their rankings and their records over a series of time, and those were the 60 in. Then they would take the next 10, which would come from that pool of 60 that is left out there. So that's kind of the theory of the case. There would be no more conferences and no more CFP. They would have an entirely different setup. Here's the setup. The Super League would have 8 10-team divisions with the division winners and 8 wild cards qualifying for what in essence would be a 16-team playoff. So that's what you're looking at if they had their way. It's interesting. It would be quite an interesting thing to see how that works, how that would play. And again, the relegation part I think is pretty interesting, but I don't know. I mean, here's how the other part: 60 fixed teams, 10 others will be subject to relegation and promotion from these remaining 60 schools. So that's how it would work. So you could literally work your way into the Super League, and they would tier off the the payment plan. So the players would be paid not by the universities but by this Super League, and there would be the option and the opportunity for the players to have their own union, which in college is going to be difficult. Although, as we've seen, Dartmouth won their lawsuit about the possibility of starting a union. So, it's kind of fun to talk about, but will it ever happen? Stranger things have. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But it would be. Would that be a good thing for the gaming industry or no? A
I'm sure
Super
it would
League in
be
football.
I'm sure it would be great for the gaming industry because obviously everyone loves the new shiny thing to bet on, especially when it's a sport that and love, and it's just a different kind of like style of it. Obviously, it didn't work too well with the NBA in-season tournament this year, just because a lot of handicappers I talked to, they didn't really care that this in-season tournament, it was more so just one of those things where it's like, Tuesdays and Fridays. It was a really weird thing. There were certain teams you had to keep an eye out for, because certain teams were trying harder on those days.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, definitely when we got to the semifinals and stuff like that, it was a big hit, the NBA in season tournament. So yeah, always when there's some kind of new format like this in the sports or something, it's always a positive. Obviously, we even saw it with MLB when they expanded the wild card a few years back, right? So yeah, people, it's always good to expand and include more teams. Even with the NBA, this play-in tournament that they do for the playoffs, right? Where you've included 2 extra teams in each conference now. More games, because now when the season ends, right, you get those extra, it might just be 2 or 3 games, but you still get those extra play-in games that have to be played. So definitely, it's always positive from a gaming standpoint.
And the money comes, they make money. The teams make money from, their new found, they get an extra couple of games where they can get attendance up there, and it also boosts the amount of money they get TV wise. So, from that standpoint, it wins for the league. It wins for, the TV networks. I think the TV networks on this NFL model would be excited about it. And the fact that the NFL is working in concert with the colleges possibly makes it, I would say this is something that 10 years from now might be a possibility. But as you said, the conferences do not want to give up power. And this would be giving up power, because it would, in essence, the conferences would only be around for basketball and the remainder of the sports. And given the fact of all the movement of all these teams, that would have been for naught, right? All these teams, going from one conference to the other in the relocation aspect of it, it would have been, they could have stayed where they were, because, the football model is going to go that route. I don't think the basketball model would go that route, but especially because there's like 3 times as many basketball teams as there are, football teams in colleges.
Yeah, I think this would be football specific for sure.
Yeah.
But my concern with the whole thing is what happens to those 60 or so other teams that get left out, because you got to remember,
they got to play somewhere.
There's 130 something teams just in the FBS. Technically, the FCS is Division 1. So does the FCS reabsorb those 60 teams and add them to the because it's still Division 1 football, and a Division 1, it's just the FCS national championship, and they kind of have their own thing going with the playoffs there. Frankly, the format's better than the FBS college football playoff right now. So
a better chance of winning.
Yeah, so definitely that would be my concern, is what happens to those 70 teams left out, and then what happens to FCS, which is also technically Division 1. It's just a lower tier of Division 1, but technically it still is. So do they merge again, and then every FCS team has a chance to play up into the Super League as well? Or there's a lot of mental gymnastics that need to be figured out for sure with this league if it's going to make it work.
All right, we'll take off from that now. And, Amedeus was talking before in our pre-show that he saw recently when he was in Dallas, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce wearing cowboy boots and just kind of looking for houses. And why? Why would they do that? Well, are the Chiefs moving to Dallas?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Definitely, I wasn't expecting to wake up to this morning. Where so obviously, Arrowhead Stadium, they put together a deal for some renovations, and that was declined. So out of nowhere, the Dallas mayor decides to pipe up and say, "Hey, we'll take you if you need a new stadium. Come be the Dallas City Chiefs." So, maybe I'm glad someone in Dallas is thinking outside the box to get a Lombardi back there. because this plan is way easier than making the Cowboys relative again. But
It's a good point. And they
but
don't mind
yeah,
building stadiums in Dallas. That's for sure.
yeah, they got the money and they get them done quick. So
Yeah.
hey, I mean, if the Chiefs move there, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I will say this. I know, look, Chiefs fans are wonderful people. The Harry S. Truman Sports Complex in Kansas City, which is out by the interstate. It's not near downtown. It's they've kind of did something that it's kind of counterintuitive to what happened. And that is they built the stadiums because so many people come from, Kansas and Nebraska and throughout that entire region to watch Chiefs games. They wanted to be by the interstate. So the baseball stadium, the Kauffman Field, which is these are two very attractive stadiums. They're fun to go to. I can tell you that Arrowhead is a real treat. As I said, Kauffman is a good ballpark. So I'm a little surprised that Kansas City didn't buy into the concept of at the very least renovating these stadiums and making them a little bit more fan friendly. But look, I would be curious to see if Jerry, because it takes 2/3 of the NFL to move a team. I would be interested to see how Jerry Jones thought about having the Chiefs, in town.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like I said, wasn't expecting to wake up to this one, so we'll see how it unfolds. Obviously, the mayor just threw it out there, right? Hey, we'll
worth a
take
shot.
it. So we'll see what Kansas City does with that.
Mm-hmm. All right, now we've saved the best here for almost last, and that is, how much we want to know where the A's are, right? By the way, the A's first homestand of 5 games at the Coliseum drew a whopping 45,000 people. That's great for one game, but not so much when you spread it out. And remembering that 15,000 was there for opening day, but they really weren't there because they didn't go in. All right, so there's that. All right, but today, the Sacramento City Council, along with the owners of the Sacramento Kings, suggested that for the next 3 years, they offer their AAA ballpark, which is home to the San Francisco Giants AAA team, to the A's for 3 years till they get their stadium built. And we should kind of, like, in parentheses put if they get the stadium built in Las Vegas. Otherwise, it's quite possible that Sacramento could host the A's, and there could be a sale of the A's to the group that owns the Sacramento Kings. So it's gonna, the A's will be in Oakland for this year, but then next year, at least for the next 3 years, and perhaps beyond, they're headed to Sacramento.
Yeah, definitely a move I don't hate. Obviously they're just playing home games there, but maybe 3 years from now, some things fall through with the Vegas deal. And I know, before the show, you mentioned that this might be the guy who would be willing to buy the team and fix the situation here. And I think that really would be a great move for the Athletics, the fans. Obviously, you also mentioned to me before the show that they had to figure out a way to stay in the area because Fisher's got to get his TV money still somehow. We're putting out a dog crap team, but I got to collect the check still. So he
got to
did
pick that money up,
specifically for that reason. But I think for the fans, it works out the best because they somewhat stay in the same state at least, and yeah, I think this would be definitely good. Sacramento is obviously, they're begging for a team. Obviously, they tried to apply for an MLS team before they expanded to St. Louis, and they were declined of one. But I'm sure that won't be the last MLS expansion. And as you also mentioned, that Sacramento's got the money to do it, so this might be our guy for the Sacramento Athletics.
And the other part to this, the other issue that's kind of fun is that you're not going that far. There's there's trains that go there. There's plenty of buses. It's 90 miles. I mean, so and to be honest and fair, it's really it's where Oakland fans are. Oakland fans are in the northern part, the northern corner of California. They're almost on the line with northern Nevada. So, if you're an A's fan in Oakland or you're an A's fan in Northern California, Sacramento is not a bad option for you.
Yeah, and I think it also works out in other ways. Like we've talked a lot about how Vegas wants a baseball team, but specifically not the A's.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we somehow find a way to work out a deal where this guy buys the A's, moves them to Sacramento permanently, then we get rid of the Fisher problem in the MLB. And hell, if the MLB still wants Vegas to have a team, then you expand two teams. You give Salt Lake City their team. You give Vegas their team. As you said, they kind of need more mountain teams anyway. Utah would fill that gap a bit.
Right.
And even though Vegas is on the West Coast, it's not west. It's not really on the coast. So it definitely helps from that standpoint. I think with the Utah and Vegas having, you get to expand, and it makes Vegas happy. They're getting their expansion team out of that. And it doesn't really matter in the MLB with East-West because it's not like their conferences or leagues, whatever you want to call them, are aligned that way.
Well, how many years was the Atlanta Braves and the Cincinnati Reds in the West Division of Major League Baseball, and the St. Louis Cardinals were in the East? So there you go. I mean, you got what you got. I don't think it would be a bad move. I also think what it would do is if the Rays are in the midst of the finalizing, I should say, of a deal with the city of St. Petersburg to build an entertainment complex and new baseball stadium. If they can square that one and the A's end up in Sacramento, that does allow Major League Baseball to expand at least to 2 teams and perhaps as 4. And I would also add to the list, if we're looking east, Nashville is probably the hottest area in the East for a new team, and also the possibility of perhaps Charlotte or Austin, Texas, or someplace like that. So that they would go obviously along with the 2 places you mentioned, which is Salt Lake and also Vegas. So Major League Baseball could get, if they added those 2 teams, probably as much as $3 to $4 billion per franchise, and that's one heck of a price tag. And so that's why they haven't moved the A's to. I mean, they actually waived when the Major League Baseball allowed the A's to quote unquote move to Vegas. They waived what in essence is a moving fee, which normally is what the A's would have to pay to get out of the Oakland market and pay it to the league. They didn't do that. So I guess they're cutting them a break. Or the other side of the coin is they don't think they're ever going to get there. If they're never going to get there, there's no reason to pay it. And if they go to Sacramento, that's within 90 miles. So for all intents and purposes, they don't have to do that either. So, but nobody would be upset if they moved it to Sacramento because, again, you're only 90 miles from where it originally was. So something to keep an eye on. I don't know. This is because I have not heard anything about the Vegas move at this point. I've not heard that Vegas is, nobody's put a shovel in the ground to start on that stadium, and they did tear down the Trop, Tropicana, which was out there for many years, was one of the, it's one of the first big casinos on, in Vegas. So it's going to be built. Supposedly, they're building a new Trop, and then the new Ace Stadium would be at the other end of that complex. And right now, ain't no digging going on that area out.
We've got a long
out
way to
Strip.
get there. First the Trop, and then slowly we build our way to that baseball stadium. Hopefully
Yeah.
the deal falls apart by the time we get there.
I'm thinking the people that are building on the Trop land are praying that it falls apart. But because I mean, here's the thing too that doesn't make sense. You've been to Vegas. For those who haven't, it's very compact. It's compact is what I'm trying to say. It's very compact. Everything is put like the strip is really tightly wound. It's not that long. Okay, you can walk the strip. The downtown area isn't really downtown. I mean, it's not a what you would think of as a proper downtown. Then things begin to stretch out all over the place throughout the county there. So I don't know that that you're going to have enough land because they're only talking about 9 acres. They're building a baseball stadium on 9 acres, which is just I'll give you most Christmas tree farms are 9 acres. I don't know, if they can build a stadium on 9 acres of land. I mean, I suppose they could, but where you park and where all the other stuff goes, no idea.
That's the thing, right? It's got to be underground parking lot, which most of the casinos are doing already. But like,
right.
Yeah, there's no land anywhere else to do anything. You're barely gonna fit the stadium in there.
Well, most people, when they're in Vegas, enjoy the walk because there's so much to do on the strip, right? So it's not like, I mean, maybe you get an Uber because it's too hot to, screw around, but it's possible that they could offset the parking lots somewhere. But again, there's nothing here that we can see that's going to make this any better. So, we go and we do what we got to do. So there you go. So anyway, that's we'll see how Sacramento handles the A's, and hopefully they do. I mean, I'm rooting for them to do well with the A's.
Yeah, that seems like the best option, really, at this point.
Yeah, and the ballpark size is perfect because if you get 7,000-8,000 people to a game, or even 4,000 for that matter, it looks like you got a pretty good size group of people there. So.
Yeah, and if that's the thing, if it stays in Sacramento, then you probably end up pulling more people, especially if Fisher has to sell the team in the end, right? You'll get fans back in the building, and then you got this guy in Sacramento who's willing to put money into it. I'm sure he'll build the stadium no problem if he's got to upgrade.
Well, in the city of Sacramento, the team almost ended up the basketball team. I don't know if you remember this years ago, but that was back when David Stern was commissioner, and they really came close to that team came close to moving to Seattle because that was not long after the Seattle franchise, which was very successful, by the way, moved to Oklahoma City. And there wasn't any money going on out in Sacramento, and the ownership was almost as bad as the A's. But then they found a local ownership group. The local ownership group did some really cool things and built them into potential playoff teams. And so could they do it with the A's? They probably could. It'd be certainly anything is going to be better than Fisher. So
yeah,
we'll have to see how that plays out.
Right now with Fisher, you have a guy that just doesn't. He's not even willing to compromise on anything.
Right.
It's just put the money in my pocket and just do what I want.
Well, he turned down 2 deals in Oakland that would have been okay to do. I mean, they were all right deals. He wanted Vegas. He went there. Suddenly, there's a stadium rendering. Look, folks, just because there is a picture of a stadium doesn't mean that there is a stadium there. That's really kind of a bit of a mess. So anyway, one thing before we get out of here, and that is this week, a baseball icon passed. Gentleman's name was Larry Lucchino. Now, some of you who are, of an age, we'll put it that way, knows the history of Larry Lucchino. Larry Lucchino was the president of the Baltimore Orioles. It was Larry Lucchino who came up with the concept of going back to building retro ballparks. So at the time, he was the president and general manager of the Baltimore Orioles. They built Camden Yard. Camden Yard then spawned a number of situations. He left Baltimore to go to San Diego, where he had Petco Park built. And he went with Tom Warner and John Henry to Boston, where he had an intern by the name of Theo Epstein, who he said, if you go to law school, we'll pay for your going to law school. Theo did. He worked with Larry. The Red Sox won their first world championship under the auspices of Larry Lucchino and Theo Epstein. And there was a move to say, all right, let's tear down Fenway Park and build something new. To which Lucchino's great line was, you don't rip up the Mona Lisa and start over. And so they just reimagined the stadium. And, Fenway, they created what in essence is a neighborhood. It's called Fenwayville, which is, simple to walk around and plenty of places to go. So at the age of 78, after battling with cancer, we lost Larry Lucchino this week. Great respect for Larry, funny man, and a baseball lifer. So when you're having your beverage this evening, give a tip to Mr. Lucchino. Meanwhile, speaking of tips, in our show box below, Amedeus has plenty of them.
Yeah, and just on that point, it's good to see his ideas just still helping the MLB, because obviously, that idea is great. A lot more ballparks are trying to do the whole Ville thing, and especially down in Tampa, the deal we mentioned earlier they're trying to get done is like that times two. So absolutely great direction, and rest in peace for sure. But that being said, make sure you check out my premium picks at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links are in the description below. Tonight I got a little bit of a big card, a little action all around. I got a Premier League play that starts at 3:15 that you can still go get. So make sure you get that. And then I have a play in the NIT finals tonight for college basketball. I got an NBA play as well as 2 MLB plays. I'm coming off a 1-0 MLB night, so make sure you check all that out.
All right. Well, everybody have a wonderful day. I hope it's not raining in your neck of the woods. Of course, here it is, but
snowing.
It's snowing up there. Wait.